It's about getting into schools and talking to young people because, you know, I know that people can change. And it's about talking to people and getting them to understand and perhaps step back from violence and prejudice and whatever. And we just need to work together and keep on the good fight there.
Absolutely. Hey there, guys. We are ecstatically happy to announce that we are associated with the Sophie Lancaster Foundation.
The times are changing, and with the unfortunate death of Sophie, those changes have made a massive impact for the future. If Sophie was with us still today, I can guarantee what you are doing will still be reaching so many lives of young teenagers, young adults, and those who wish to be as different as possible. So thank you very much.
To find out more about this incredible foundation and all the work they do, and more importantly, how you can help, head on over to www.sophielancasterfoundation.com.
Hi, I'm Sam Chaplin. I'm a podcaster. I do the cinema podcast Cinema Swirl, and you're listening to the Chronicles of Podcast with Tom and Jamie.
Hi guys, forgotten the podcast, and I do believe Jamie. Oh, I'm so sorry. I kind of cut in a bit there. It's the 58th edition? Right. Yeah, man, that's great though. So the Chronicles of Podcast, I do believe these right here, you don't have to keep waiting. I do believe these right here, are the Chronicles of Sam Chaplin.
They are indeed, sir.
Yeah. I'll drive. Hit it! But I do feel that it's time to bring in that peace.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Welcome to the Chronicles of Sam Chaplin. Sam is a podcaster of the Cinema Swirl podcast. Excuse me. He's also a musician, a stand-up comedian. He's just a generally all-round lovely human, and he does a really good advert for Ballycastle.
This episode isn't sponsored by Ballycastle, but it should be.
It should be, yeah.
Sam is one half of the Cinema Swirl podcast, like Tom just said. I've been listening to Cinema Swirl since episode 1. I'm a huge fan of Sam's podcast co-host, Kefin Man. He is a host of the Attitude Era podcast, and that is how I discovered Cinema Swirl, through him. And I absolutely love this show. It is a fantastic spin on the movie genre. And it's just wonderful. The basic line is Sam hasn't seen any of them films, so Kevin makes him watch them and they talk about them. But they've got so many little added bits they throw in, talking about Pepsi, tiffin, mailbags, you name it. It is just absolutely incredible. I cannot recommend this podcast enough. I'm not going to say turn as off and go listen to it, but subscribe to it so you can listen to them later, because, you know, don't turn us off. But yeah, it is. I can't recommend this podcast enough. And I've wanted to talk to Sam on here for quite a while. Finally reached out, and I'm so glad we did, because this conversation is incredible.
It is great. This is a great interview. So you're all. I'm not going to add on to what Jamie said, because I don't need to. He's just absolutely nailed it and smashed it out of the park for you. This is a very Jamie interview / episode. So, Jamie.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any final words? Even though you just said a lot of words at all.
No, just a massive thank you to Sam. Really appreciate you coming on to this. Guys, you can enjoy this. Pour yourself a glass of Ballycastle and enjoy.
Or Pepsi. Sam, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. It's just great having you on. And, you know, you're taking your time out, even with all the internet issues. It was still a really, really good laugh. Guys, you're going to enjoy this one. Trust me. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, interviewing this week, it's Sam Chaplin.
I've resorted to drinking. I hope that's okay.
I can't say I blame.
Just to get through, not talking to you, but just the stress of dealing with internet. to hell with
Consider this a safe
professionals.
space. Consider this a place where you can come and you can bev as much as you like. You can swear as much as you like, as long as there are no Heil Hitlers or I love Kat Von D or anything like that. We're pretty good. So
I think those things are on an even keel.
Yeah. They were. My brain was like, I can't think of a second thing. Shit. And she's the problematic. There could have been the Tories or Syria or the war in Iraq or anything like that, but no, it just had to be Nazi and then Nazi related.
Yes, I'll try and keep things as uncontentious as possible.
Appreciate that massively.
no worries. Right. Okay. I think we're all. It seems good, doesn't it? It seems like it's working now. That's my dog downstairs barking, which is fantastic.
Don't worry about it.
Calm this time of night, but fuck it. At this point, I'm just going to let things happen how they happen.
We've had dogs come into the conversation. We've had a cat's arsehole in the background when we're talking before. It's all happened.
That's not too bad. All right.
Basically, what we do, we'll get this under wraps. I just do a little intro, introducing you to the people, and then we just bombard the living hell out of your questions.
Yes, please.
Sounds
good to me. Yeah.
Sweet. Right, let's get this going. Ladies and gentlemen, today we bring you another wonderful guest. Today's guest is a musician, stand-up comic, and a podcaster. A man with an unhealthy love for Pepsi, a man who hasn't seen any of them fillums, and to do an opening rhyme like his co-host, oh my God, I can't believe this happening. Ladies and gents, from Cinema Swirl, it's only Sam Chaplin.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. That was a fantastic rhyme. It's a pleasure to be here, guys.
It wasn't quite on par with one of Kevin's, but I tried.
I think it was arguably better than...
Yes! Yes! Shots fired. Shots fired. That's all I can say.
Probably shouldn't be firing shots this early doors, but
it's fine.
This is the scoop you're getting on the podcast.
You heard it here first.
His rhymes are great. I much appreciate his rhymes. He's a good guy.
They're great.
But Sam, for the question I like to ask every single one of our guests that we have on the show is, the real hard hitting shit is, how was Dumb and Dumber 2? No, I'm joking. Truth, I didn't even want to touch it.
No, thank you.
That's fine. I mean, I've got some shit related to it later, but I feel like in the cruxy area of the interview, when the people are fully involved, they're like, "This is real. I'm really enjoying this." And when you actually get to the decent shit, people go, "Oh." Anyway, seriously though, how was your pandemic season?
I mean, kind of fine, I think, for me. And that I've been very fortunate in that regard that for my work, my day job, as well as the podcast, things were able to just continue as normal. I mean, obviously the pandemic was a massive, big disaster. International shared trauma, and I don't know if we've all fully processed it yet. I sometimes forget that it happened and think back. Not saying that the pandemic is over. I'm not sort of Joe Bidening this whole thing and being like, it's done, guys. And I realize you told me earlier on not to say anything contentious.
Yeah. It's all good. That's fine.
I'm not saying it's over, but I mean, the lockdowns are, as I think they're done. And if you think back to those early days of it, it was absolutely mad. I don't know if we're all kind of fully, we're done processing yet. But all of that to say, it was all right for me, really. Things kind of ticked along, and I drank quite a bit of gin of an evening. That became my little hobby. Got into that. So, I've been okay. Yeah. How were you guys? Were you all right in the pandemic?
I started a new job, so I was all right.
There you go.
Just keep cracking on, don't you? Yeah. I think you're absolutely right, though, what you say about processing it. I think one day we're just going to sit there and go, shit, that happened. That was real.
Yeah. It's massive, but we've all kind of muddled through it without really properly having a big old think about it, which I think is coming. I think there's going to be like a kind of cultural moment where everyone starts to kind of fully deal with what just happened. But for now, I'm fine. I'm all right. Yeah, good.
That's right. I mean, I moved to a different country during it, so I'm now in Wales. So I just was like, do you know what? I'm sick of England. Shithole.
I mean,
Let's,
that's a solid move there. Yeah, I don't blame you for getting out. Yeah.
So, similarly, I have a question I like to ask every single guest we have on the show. Is take us back. Let's learn a bit more about you. What did young Master Chaplin want to be when he grew up? What was those early desires?
See, okay. I mean, I know like the initial. I was going to say initial gut reaction, but like, as a very little child, I wanted to be a train driver, but I think many children want to be that because they've watched Thomas the Tank Engine, they've seen some trains, and they think, how can I spin this off into a career? So I thought, so as a clear, honest first memory of knowing an answer to that, I think I wanted to be a train driver. But beyond that, I've always been a little bit kind of unsure of myself in that regard. But I think I got the sense that I wanted to be vaguely creative from a young age. My older brother is very academic, very scientific. He is now a doctor of robotics or something like that, which wow. That puts a lot of pressure on me and the family. With my older brother, Dr. Chaplin, which was a weird first name to give a child, blah, blah, blah. That's a little bit of material that I'm sneaking it in. It's
fine. It's fine.
So in response to that, I think I just fell into like, trying to do a bit of music, a bit of art. I was never very good at any of those things, but I would sort of sing into tape recorders and play it back, always quite privately. I wasn't like a sort of showy off child. I think that for some reason that was drilled into me that wasn't great. It probably should have been told that it was fine. How deep do we want to get, guys?
Keep going. Just keep going.
But yeah, I think just a vague sense of like I want to do something creative, arty in that sort of field. I did a bit of skateboarding when I was younger, so I think for a while I wanted to be a skateboarder. I probably wanted to be in like Jackass or CKY or something as well when I was a little bit older. But yeah, I still don't really know the answer to that question, by the way. I think there's just been certain things that have kind of stuck and work for now. I still, I'm not sure what I want to be when I grow up, but we'll see what happens.
I get it. I'm 36 and I have no idea what I want to do for a career.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure to like know that and make decisions throughout your childhood that are influenced by where you're going to go career-wise. And I think I kind of made some of those decisions at like college. I did like 1 or 2 lessons of like business at A-level. And I just got in there and I was like, oh God, I don't like this at all. I don't want to do this. And again, I think this is like a very fortunate position of being able to think, no, I want to do what I want to do. I don't know if that comes from a place of like thinking it would be fine. But I then went on to do photography instead of business and loved that so much and learnt so much. But yeah, I think that there's so much pressure to like decide what you're going to do at various stages. I don't know if that's like fully healthy, but I've never really figured it out. But I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm happy for now. So
good. That's what matters. But yeah, teachers are literally like, "What do you want to do when you grow up? I don't know. You got to wait till you're 16. You got to make a decision quick. Oh, yeah. Fuck."
And there's the whole thing of like education shouldn't be necessarily about career, but it really, and especially now given how much it fucking costs. Like it feels like it's for a lot of people it kind of has to be. It's a shame that you can't just learn things because there's some value in learning those things, not necessarily because there's value in a career from that thing afterwards. Get it. Yeah, I've taken a kind of weird political view on this question about what you want to be when you grow up. Education should be for education's sake. But yeah, I want to be a train driver. In answer to your question.
I love most kids, to be fair, though, you're right, though, is a train driver or an astronaut or maybe a cowboy. Yes. Yeah.
Or a Stegosaurus. Yeah. So, or the Red Ranger.
Exactly.
So,
I went straight down the middle, train driver. Sorry.
Train driver. Okay. So, as I said in my intro, you're also known for doing music. You do all the music for Cinema Swirl. You do the music for How To Wrestling as well.
Mhm.
What made you want to learn to play music? From what age did you decide to learn? Was it that desire to be creative, like you just said?
Yeah, I think so. And also, like, very bluntly, like, playing guitar seemed cool. I think at an age when I was like, I guess, I can't remember when I even started, maybe like 11 or 12. I asked for a guitar for Christmas or a birthday or something, and then just struggled to learn to play it and got frustrated and kind of left it for a bit. But kind of worked at it. I think that was because I was, listening to around then sort of pop punk bands and new metal bands of that era, and just kind of, I want to do that. I want to be like that. I want to play those songs. So it kind of came from that, really, and it was like a cool thing to learn to play guitar. And I thought that would help me, fit in. It didn't quite pan out exactly as I had hoped in terms of the fitting in necessarily, but I kind of got some musical knowledge out of it in a kind of rudimentary way. I think with learning things, I tend to get to the point where I can make stuff for myself and enjoy making things, and then don't bother to pursue it further into like actual artistry and skill, just to kind of get to the point where I can, like, I sort of think of it like painting. If I can get to the point where I can draw a picture and you can tell that it's a house, then I know how to paint. It doesn't have to necessarily photorealistically look like a house, but if you apply that to guitar somehow, I can play you a house, I think is what I'm trying to say. I can play you a picture of a house.
I bet you could see you getting lost in your own metaphor, and that was beautiful.
Doesn't make any sense. I never tried poetry for good reason, but yeah, which is why maybe some of the kind of jingly things are perfect, because they're sort of short, almost like nursery rhyme type primary color music that just kind of trying to create like hooks and kind of little catchy melodies and stuff. I've sort of become okay at doing that, but I couldn't, do a fancy tapping solo. I'm doing this just to kind of suggest, all that. I can't do that, and I've just got to the point where I think that's never going to happen for me. And sometimes, well, should I say this? Sometimes I see, the tapping guitar, especially on the acoustic guitar. It's very impressive. There's a lot of skill involved. I do sort of think, get a piano if you want. If you want to be doing the tappy, just get a. But it's good. It's very good. It's very good. Anyway, I'm just jealous. I can't do any of that stuff. But yeah, it was like a desire to play the kind of music I was listening to at the time, which thankfully, some of the pop punk stuff, although not all of it, like a lot of it is very complex. I was really into Blink-182. And some of Tom DeLonge's guitar stuff is deceptively challenging sometimes, beyond the kind of, you just think, oh, it's just power chord stuff. But it's quite fiddly. It was just wanting to play that stuff and to be cool, like the rock stars on Kerrang and Scuzz and MTV2. And then I kind of got into recording and trying to make songs and things like that from there.
Have you ever been in a band and you ever pursue it in that way, or just no?
Yes, I have a few times throughout sort of school and kind of early college. But I don't want to. I'm worried some MySpace trace of some of these bands might exist out there. So I don't want to name anything or say anything that could lead those to being fat. None of them ever came to anything or were particularly good. I can say one name, I think, that of a band I was in very briefly, that we came up with and we thought it was the fucking coolest name. That band was called Deafening Silence, which yeah, we thought that was the coolest fucking thing in the world, because how can silence, we were so pleased with that. We never played any gigs or really made any songs, but we were pleased with the name. So yeah, no, I've been in bands, but they were just like little kind of, school things in the music room. after hours and stuff like that. Played a few gigs here and there, but nothing significant really. But that was something like I kind of wanted to do, but never really found something that kind of clicked.
Never too late, Sam. It's never too late.
No, well, exactly. Any bass players and drummers out there, get in touch.
But you say about writing the jingles and stuff like that if you do for the show, and they are great. They are every time I listen to How to Wrestling and Cinema, I'm singing along and humming along, just cycling down the road, going to work, listening to them. You know, that's what you want from a jingle. It's perfect.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I mean, sometimes people say they use it as like the Cinema Swirl one. They've used it as an alarm tone, and I think to get to that level in someone's brain is quite an honor, really. You know, to be that thing that you hear every morning, and it gets in your head that way. Yeah, I think I've got a little knack for that kind of music, especially just those little kind of earwormy, plinky plonky bits and bobs. I'm happy with those, and you know, people seem to like them. So yeah, it's worked out all right.
So you've also dabbled in the world of stand-up comedy. I watched a few videos of yours on YouTube earlier on today. I especially loved the escape rooms joke you got on your Twitter at the moment. That is just superb.
I'm proud of that. I'm not proud of some of the YouTube videos that are online.
Hey, you having a head that's too big for hats is brilliant.
So those Chortle student stand-up videos, I've got a real beef with those. And I think quite a few comedians do. Are you aware of that competition in any kind of...
My brother was in it back in 2008, I think.
So those student comedians, you know, at that point, when you're a young comedian, you want to do any gig that's going, and that competition has some prestige to it, and it's kind of a big deal, and you get to do big gigs in kind of student rooms. They make you sign a little thing that says, this video will be on the internet forever and you can never take it down. Is that okay? And you just kind of go, oh yeah, that's fine. Can I go and do the gig, please? Not thinking about the fact that you're so early in your stand-up career and that's going to haunt you forever. I mean, my ones aren't awful, but I don't want to watch them back. But I can't get rid of them. I can't get Steve Bennett from Chortle to take them down whether I wanted to or not. Sorry, that just fell into a kind of weird rant about Chortle and their policy of getting these student comedians locked into this video thing. I think it's because obviously if those people then go on to become famous, Chortle's got video evidence of like the early part of their career, and that's obviously a big deal. So I get it, but it does seem a little bit like, you know, come on.
A weird sort of image then of when you signed it, he turned to the devil really quickly. It's like, thank God. You then quickly went back, like Simpsons desk. Yeah. You're mine now. Oh shit.
My headphones just fell out. I'm back.
So I've always said, like, it must take a huge pair of balls to do stand-up comedy. Stand in a room full of people and tell jokes and try and make them laugh. What made you want to try and do it in the first place?
Oh God! What? So I sort of agree with that, and I sort of don't agree with that. It's a really strange thing. My balls are sort of regular size, sort of statistically like average. I mean, all the whole way through. But I think, there's some argument about comedians, you know, having certain like issues, I guess, or like mental health issues, or there being some degree of like you have to have something wrong with you to want to do this. And I do kind of get that. I think like for most well-adjusted people, the idea of doing stand-up is a scary thing, and it should be, and it makes sense for it to be scary. Like it is scary, like to go on stage and try and get a room full of people to laugh at what you're saying is frightening. So I think you have to be in a position where, for some reason, that doesn't bother you in some way, but also well-adjusted enough to deal with the consequences of that. Because, like, good gigs can feel amazing, and then you kind of feel empty afterwards, and bad gigs can feel soul-crushingly awful. So I'm not sure if I've answered your question at all. What made me want to do that? I loved comedy. I loved stand-up from an early age. Like, I remember, I guess, like sort of Billy Connolly, like French and Saunders, Lenny Henry, Victoria Wood stuff. Like that's like the earliest sort of comedy things I kind of remember in terms of like stand up. And then like Rick Mail and Aid Edmondson and Bottom and things like that. And just my tiny mind being fucking blown by that. It was like a superpower, especially like Rick Mail, to like entertain in that way was incredible. And then as I got a little bit older, there was that kind of golden age of UK sitcoms. Well, a certain, to me, what feels like a golden age of sitcoms in like the late 90s, early 2000s. So like Spaced and The Office, and maybe a little bit later, like Mighty Boosh. And then like, your kind of Father Ted's and Black Books and things like that were kind of around then. That kind of group of sitcoms were like hugely influential. And like things like, The Simpsons just made you appreciate humor and comedy, and that's kind of a given. So it was something I'd always like loved. I guess as a kid, there's that typical thing of like using a sense of humor as a kind of defense thing, or to kind of help you out in awkward situations. And it was something I just kind of always thought about trying. And when I got to about, I think I was 19 when I first did it. And it was fucking terrifying. And I remember my first gig was in a pub called the Canal House in Nottingham. And I sort of stood there like this, just kind of rocking back and forth. I don't know. I wasn't aware that it was happening, but the whole time I was just like one of those Weeble things, just kind of doing this and just doing these little I was really into like one-liner jokes at that point, so I just did jokey jokes for the whole set, and people laughed at some of them, and it went okay. And I think that was enough to kind of make me think, holy shit, I need to like keep doing this a bit more. Like there's something special here. It took me a long time to find like a consistent comedic voice, but just to get a taste of it, I think it's hard to. I mean, I'm making it sound like a dangerous thing to taste, but like as soon as I kind of got a bit of that, I realized I kind of want to do this more. And so I don't know. I'm answering these questions in such a long, rambly way, but
we like rambling.
Okay. So like going to university, kind of around that time, I joined up to the Comedy Society at Lincoln University, and they were running gigs all the time and kind of having little get-togethers where people would practice their sets in front of each other and play some improv games and things like that. Some things that I was a bit sort of averse to and wasn't familiar with and didn't fully get on with, but being around like-minded people who were also into doing it and also loved comedy, this lovely community of people kind of emboldened me more to do it quite a lot at uni. So I guess that's what sort of got me into it. At first, just kind of wanting to do it and wanted to try it, and then beyond that, wanting to be around people who all wanted to do it. We could kind of go out and do it together, I guess, is what happened.
Sorry, Jamie.
No, go.
It's one of those things, like, though, because how do you... I guess it's like music and stuff like that as well. It's like how... Like, when a joke's, like, done, do you know what I mean? There's so many comedians out there, they've got so many, like, personas and styles and ways of telling jokes and stuff like that. Like, is there no... I'm trying... How do I word this properly? Like, how did you find like your? Is it like a character in a way? Like, how did you find your like style? Is what I'm telling. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah, I mean, so I feel similarly to how I felt about the "What do you want to be when you grow up?" question. Like, I think it's I guess for me and for some comedians way beyond where I got to, it's still an ongoing thing. But I guess it's just through doing it enough to enough audiences. And eventually something kind of clicks and it just kind of starts to feel more natural. I kind of remember a distinct point where it just kind of clicked into gear and it just felt really fun. It wasn't terrifying anymore. It was just kind of, I was doing what I wanted to do. And that kind of affected in its own way the kind of persona and the voice. But you said something about like, when is a joke done? So I had like a big break from not Jim Davison. I had like a big break from
Probably a good job, really.
from stand up. Like I stopped. I can't remember many years ago it was. Like 7 or 8 years ago. I just kind of stopped doing it, and then came back to it a little bit at the end of last year and a bit of this year. And I revisited some of my old set lists and jokes and things. And in listening to them back, you know, me saying them when I was younger, I was almost stealing them from myself and doing them better. Like, it was like, oh, this young kid has got some interesting jokes, but if you just put that emphasis there and move that bit to the end, then that makes so much more sense. And like, I was doing jokes that hadn't worked 10 years ago, and just changing a little bit of emphasis and a tiny bit of wording and doing it in the kind of persona that I kind of have now. I think podcasting as well has helped a lot with that in terms of like my voice, just through talking in a way to an audience. I know the audience isn't like there, but like doing that consistently has really helped. So I was able to kind of rescue some jokes that seemed doomed, but just needed a little bit of, elbow grease and polishing to kind of get to work. So yeah, I don't know if I found my comedic voice yet, but it just kind of, I guess, develops through loads and loads of practice. It's an instrument that you can only learn by doing it in front of people, which is a real terrifying thing. I've nicked that off someone, but it really resonated with me, that phrase.
It's right what you're saying about podcasting helping with things like that, though, because before I started podcasting, I was such a quiet, shy, timid guy. And now from doing this for 3 years, you can't get me to shut up. I'll talk to anyone about everything. It's weird how just talking into a microphone really brings you out of your shell. It's very odd.
Yeah. It's practice, isn't it? It's just a lot of it's communication stuff. It's helped me with like work things, like boring office stuff, just through getting that experience of communicating in that way. So yeah, I think that ended up helping my stand-up recently when I came back to it. I think my voice had kind of developed slowly through just podcasting and mucking around and not doing material, but just chatting.
I get what you're saying as well, because like if you watch that clip that's on your Twitter, the escape rooms joke, which again is incredible, and you compare that to the chortle stuff that's on YouTube, how there's a lot more confidence in that man that's talking on that one. The body language and everything, you're a lot more. Yeah. I was having a lot more fun at that gig, I think. And not that I wasn't having fun when I was younger, but like you're right, there was nerves, and there was a kind of I was not quite there, and I was young, and it was like years ago. So to go from there to there, you can see that there's been progression, which is nice to see. Like there's a marked difference between there and there. And I haven't done any gigs since that gig that escape rooms video was from. I think because that gig was really nice, I really enjoyed it, and I just thought, I don't want to, I don't want to spoil this. But yeah, with stand up, I loved it, but I never really like fully committed to the same level that I think you kind of have to. A lot of the people I was kind of coming up with and doing gigs with, that was their thing. And they needed it, and it was so important. And it was important to me, but I didn't quite treat it with enough reverence to throw my whole life into it and just, go up and down the country constantly playing to little rooms above pubs. Like it's hard work, and there are people who've put in the graft. And I didn't put in quite as much graft as I probably should have done as a young comedian, but I kind of didn't know any better. And I think now I'm kind of at a point where I don't have the kind of the time and the energy to fully commit to doing it again in that way. But it's fun to kind of come back to. But also I don't want to kind of take up space from people who, need that stage time. You know what I'm saying? Like it's such a crowded field. Like it's so brutal and competitive, and there's so many incredibly talented people who are not getting the kind of exposure that they deserve, and it's in some ways luck of the draw. In some ways, there's so many other factors. There's some regional things going on, in terms of who gets seen and who doesn't get seen. I'm going into just talking about stand up now, but yeah, it's I didn't put enough into it, so I kind of
ended up slowing down and stopping. But I loved it when I was doing it, and coming back to it was really nice. It was kind of like a little homecoming feeling. But I don't want to spoil it and have any bad gigs that will destroy my brain and my soul. So who knows? I might come back into it, but I'm all right for now.
Okay, because my next question was going to be then: do you feel like the way the world is at the moment, cancel culture, shall we say, is really having a massive effect on comedy at the moment? Like, you can't talk about that now. You can't say this now. Has it made it even harder?
I mean, I haven't noticed any of that stuff. Like, for me personally, there are comedians who will talk about that and have issue with that. I think, I guess culturally things have changed over time. And this, if you go back and you watch stand-up from, the 70s or the 80s, you think, holy shit, how was any of that all right for that person to say? But it was kind of over time. So to not anticipate that change and adapt to it seems a bit short-sighted, and to kind of blame, I don't know, but like blame your lack of being able to adapt to that on like cancel culture is policing everything, we can't say anything, doesn't sit well with me. But I kind of see some of it, and there is some aspects of maybe noticing people censoring themselves a bit, but not in any way that I think it's affecting comedy in the way that it is being made out to. And certainly for me, with my kind of light-hearted bullshit, it's never been an issue or something I've had to worry about. I'm not really pushing any boundaries or challenging anything. So it's not troubled my door. And I think sometimes it's a little bit of a kind of excuse. Sometimes, maybe. I'm going to go with saying that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think we're all right. I think some of the things that people are scared about saying, there's a reason why you don't want to say it anymore, because things have changed and sensitivities have changed, and that's okay. And I think there is some like challenging stuff out there, and it's okay. And you can say it, but you have to like back it up and have reasons for saying it and have something funny coming out of it. Like the quality has got to be there. If you want to do something perceived as dangerous, it had better be funny, and you better have a reason for saying it. If you're just saying something controversial to be like, fuck you, I'm shocking you, what's that for? I mean, there is a significant audience now for that. There's definitely people out there who want that sort of thing. But is that really progressing things and pushing things forward, or are you just kind of clinging on to something from the past sometimes, I guess? Yeah, but I'm not an expert.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Just to also put your mind at ease, like we can edit, so things you want to say, then afterwards go, can you edit that out? We will do. Oh, okay, do that for you. All right, so don't stress. It's not. This is what. That's it. You've said it now. It's going to be out there.
There's a little bit of hesitancy to some things I'm saying, but I think I stand by what I've said so far. We'll see how that
pans out.
In case there's something I need to go, guys, we need to take that out. That's not okay for me to say. If that does happen, you will know, because my face will change and I will beg you to please take it out of the recording.
Yeah, it's fine. We will. Don't worry.
But keep me saying that in.
Okay.
So maybe we should talk all about your wonderful podcast. As I said earlier, I've been listening to this show since episode 1, where I couldn't quite wrap my mind around the idea of a man never seen Star Wars, quite honestly.
Yes.
First off, how did you and Kefin meet in the first place?
So the Comedy Society at Lincoln University that I mentioned, that was how we met. So in, I think, my third year of university, or my second year of being in the Comedy Society anyway, Kevin came over to start a PhD, I think. And he joined the Comedy Society, and he was new. And instantly, everyone in the room kind of noticed this exciting presence. I think he was a very charismatic person, a very loud person, I've spoken about this before. I mistook his accent for Canadian when I look right. Okay, here's the thing, and we talked about things we might need to edit out, but I think there's a, and I was at the University of Lincoln. There are some. I've got a reputation as being this English guy who doesn't know anything about stuff, but I hadn't necessarily, and I think people I was there with hadn't necessarily been exposed to that many Irish accents at the time. And also, I think Kevin's accent does have certain North American elements to it, or the way he speaks anyway. Or some of I'm getting these looks.
I'm just trying to think now.
Okay, I'm trying to justify what was a massive mistake, but for about 5 minutes, I thought, oh, this Canadian guy is pretty fucking cool. He is, of course, Irish, and I am a fool. But he came in, and immediately everyone gravitated towards him, and rightly so. Like, he's such an interesting figure, like a charismatic person, and I was kind of drawn to him. And through being in the Comedy Society, we got to know each other. We got chatting about things. We went out. We went for drinks and stuff. We watched some movies and some TV together. And we did stand-up together. And we kind of talked about comedy and shared, comedians that we liked, shows that we liked, passed like DVDs back and forth. And it just kind of grew from there, really, into like a proper, solid friendship. And I guess in watching movies together or talking about movies, it kind of came up organically that I hadn't seen loads of stuff, and it was just a kind of running joke that he was so shocked that I hadn't seen like Star Wars or Jaws or fucking Terminator 2 or Ghost. When I think about the list of fucking films, it was ridiculous. And so that was already like a little kind of talking point for us. But that's how we met. We met through the Comedy Society and through stand-up. I think, the people who I'm still in touch with and are still my friends and I still love hanging out with from uni, none of them were on my course. They were all like people I met either through the Comedy Society or like associated with it or through doing stand-up. So Kevin was one of those, and we just formed this kind of really strong, fast friendship through kind of exchanging cultural ideas and comedy ideas and things that we liked with each other.
I love it. It's such a great and unique twist on movie podcasts. Because let's be honest, there's 6 billion gajillion movie podcasts out there in the world.
Yeah.
So, but whose idea was it to go, this is this great conversation we have where I rib you for not seeing any movies today. Let's make this a podcast. Whose idea was that?
So I think it was me. In so much as I'm not taking full credit for it, but I will explain what I mean by that. Like, it was this established thing. Like, Sam hasn't seen any of these films, right? And that's weird. And to be honest with you, Kevin started the Attitude Era podcast, a wrestling podcast, became very successful. And I was a little jealous baby and wanted to, I want to do my own podcast. And I knew that me and Kevin had this chemistry and this like rapport with each other. And I thought that would translate really well. And in trying to think of like a gimmick for the podcast, I think this probably came up mutually, but that kind of came up straight away as something we could do. And in a world where like, even at that time, podcasting was becoming a bit crowded and the sort of days of podcast being just some folks having a chat was kind of over, and you had to have like a kind of something to kind of, a format to work around. It felt like it was perfect. I remember kind of just almost like pitching him. I did a little Word document of just, okay, so I talk about we talk about the film at the start and what I think it is, then we watch it, and then we talk about it afterwards. Just as like a formal, like, here's what the podcast could be. And we sort of banded around some names. And it was so close to being called I've not seen any of them films or something like that. Or Sam has not I think it was like not seen those films, mate, or something like it could have been that. And Kevin came up with Cinema Swirl, which to this day people don't realise the very silly pun on cinnamon swirls, the pastry. That's I don't know if anything's just clicked there.
I've never thought of that before.
No, but it's not a pun that makes any sense to be a pun in context, but it is.
Really.
No, it's a cinnamon pun, and it was Cinema Swirl that we settled on. And he said that, and I thought it was brilliant, and we went with that. And Joe did some wonderful artwork, some little cartoons of us, and we tried it, and I think it worked. Although those early episodes, I sound completely different to how I sound now in terms of my voice. In terms of like comedy voice, I've developed. In terms of like podcast voice, I've definitely kind of softened and found how I actually sound when I'm talking on a microphone. In those early episodes, I'm sort of, oh hey guys, today we're doing it. Oh, I've not seen guys. Like I don't know why I was doing such a deep voice. I think it was a thing I used to do as a kid, like before my voice had broken, to try and sound cool. I don't know, and I was carrying that forward because I was so nervous about doing a podcast, even though I'd been eager to do it and kind of hyping it up. And I'd done some little podcast things before, but that's how the kind of idea came about. It was a combination of something that we'd already kind of talked about and laughed about and made sense, and also me being a bit jealous and kind of strong-arming Kevin into doing a podcast with me because I wanted to do my own one. And I'm very glad that we did it and that we're doing it, because it's a real fun thing to do.
So I can relate to Kevin in one way, because I also have a co-host who has barely seen any films. I'm not dropping you in it. But what reason did you say to me before, Tom, as to why you've not really watched many films? I can't remember what you said now.
My attention span is terrible.
Okay.
So like TV series. The thing is, though, Sam, is like I watched films, but I loved films so much, the same ones over and over again, because I loved them so much. Like Ace Ventura, Detective, I watched religiously.
Sure.
Because I just absolutely adored it. So I never branched out. I was like, well, I know what I like, so I'll stick to what I like. It's weird.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I completely get it, and you're speaking my language, especially with the attention span thing and the television. Like, but I can watch 24 episodes of Lost over the course of like a week, but to watch like an hour and a half movie feels like a chore.
Yeah, no, it really does.
Something about the episodic nature of television is, I have more fun consuming that than I do movies. I don't know. It's a tricky one, but I don't know if I can explain it. I was worried when we started it that the two possibilities were like, I've just somehow missed out on all this stuff, or I've seen all this stuff and I have repressed the memories for some reason, which is a more sinister, background lore to the podcast. But I think it's just like, I just didn't see some stuff. Like my dad isn't massively into a lot of films. I don't know if my mum is really that much. She loves Ghost, the film Ghost. She loves Ghost. But I guess mums love Ghost. But well, I don't know. I say that like it's fucking Peter Kay observational material. Oh, mums love Ghost. But I don't know. I just know that my mum loves Ghost, and I think we can all figure out where that's come from. Yeah.
But why suddenly to pottery all of a sudden? Where's this come from?
But it wasn't like a massive. And also, I realized I've just jumped over, you explaining your relationship with films and stuff, and just started talking about me. But I'm going to do it.
It's all about you, Sam. So that's
going to do it anyway.
Yeah, go for it.
It wasn't a massive cultural thing, I guess, in my household. My brother, again, to bring it back to Dr. Chaplin, he was very into his pop culture stuff, I guess. He liked, Ghostbusters and Star Wars and Transformers. He loved Transformers. He was into Warhammer. I know that's not a film, but like it kind of paints the picture that he was, into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that kind of stuff. I think that was his bag. And I kind of think that maybe as a kid, being like 4 years younger than him, wanting to kind of react against that perhaps was part of it. And I didn't watch loads of films. But when you mentioned like seeing the same thing over and over again, I think I've seen Flubber loads of times. I feel like I've seen Flubber a lot.
Oh, Sam.
I think, and like The Lion King and like, you know, early Pixar stuff. I mean, I've watched films, but I've kind of watched the same things over and over. But I also would just want to watch like The Simpsons or even fucking Tom and Jerry like before that. So I don't know how I missed out on all these films, but I really did. And I think by the time there might have been some sort of reckoning for me through like school or college, I was kind of getting into weirder films and art and TV stuff and just kind of didn't want to watch the kind of mainstream blockbustery stuff. I guess, maybe, I don't know, some kind of level of pretension there that stopped me from doing it as a revisiting thing. So I kind of missed out on it on childhood and then kind of didn't want to come back to it later until an Irish man told me that I had to, like years after that. So I'm sorry for jumping in on that. But it's I think people do tell me like they're in the same position. Like it's not as uncommon as you think to not have seen like Star Wars. I think quite a lot of people haven't seen a lot of films.
Yeah, well, exactly. I completely agree with you. It for me, it was when people start quoting things. I'm like, yeah, like, where the hell's that come from? Like, what do you mean? Don't know what that is? Like, well, I have no idea. They go, well, some Goodfellas. Have you not seen that? Not Ray Liotta. Like, I have no idea what about.
The attitude you get from it is not great, is it? The kind of reaction of like, how have you not done this? It doesn't include you and make you want to then do it. It's not like you don't tend to get, oh, it's from this. Let's all, go and watch it. It's more, how have you not seen that? Come on. Why have you not seen that? It's, I don't know how I missed out on as much as I did, but I think it's a thing, there's people who haven't seen films and that's okay. It's all right. I support those people.
I've got to think that must have been part of the reason for the show having such huge success, though, is that intrigue is like, how has this man not seen these films? T2? Everyone's seen T2.
There was some early speculation that it was like an act, and I was just sort of, like there was about like Carl Pilkington back in the day, that like, is this a real person who's doing this? Whether I might have just been playing the part of someone who hadn't watched films, but I'm not that good of an actor to kind of keep up that sort of persona. It's a real thing. I've not seen them. I wonder if there have been some that I've like watched and forgotten about entirely. That might be a possibility, but I don't think so. I think I usually like remember having seen films. One of the things that Kevin gets most upset about is if I say like I've seen bits of something. Like I've seen like have you seen this? Well, I've seen like bits of it. How have you seen bits of it but you haven't watched it? That I don't know how I've absorbed bits. Maybe like clip shows and things where they show like the best movie moments, like some Channel 5 thing that'll be on at like 11 o'clock at night. I've like maybe seen that, but I've missed out on a lot. And there's still loads that I haven't seen. Like it still comes up that there's things that people are surprised by that I haven't yet watched.
That's what I love. It's like there's so many films in this world, you're never going to run out of material.
No. I mean, I think now, having watched nearly like 100 movies for this podcast, it almost feels like I have more movie knowledge than most people now. Like I feel like I've really done a kind of crash course on movies over the years. But there's still like we did the Princess Bride recently, and a lot of people were like, how have you not fucking seen that? Like there's still that kind of
I've never seen The Princess Bride.
Well, there you go. So but some people get really het up about it, and it's quite nice to still have that reaction all these years down the line when we pull something out. Like there's a couple of films that we're kind of holding back that I haven't seen. Like so E.T. I haven't seen E.T., but we're kind of saving E.T. And we're like E.T. feels fucking big, like for me not to have seen.
I can't wait to see your reaction to E.T.
We're kind of waiting to like figure out. I know that like there's something to that I've not seen E.T. and we need to like hold on to some of these like massive ones. So there's a couple of like ones we're kind of keeping in the back drawer. That's not a phrase. Keeping in the back drawer. But
It is now.
It is now. I'm coining it. But when I'm like watching, I want to watch films like these days. Like I want to just sit down of an evening and watch a film, and my girlfriend will want to watch stuff, and she'll say, "Have you seen that?" And I'll say, "No." And she's like, "Well, we could watch that." I say, "No, well, hold on, no, let's slow down. I might not be allowed to watch it because
Kefin,
I know.
Can I watch this film, please?
Yeah. It's hard to kind of judge the cultural significance. So I've taken to watching films like that released after 2014 because we've got some eligibility rule on Cinema Swirl where, like, if it came out after Cinema Swirl started, it doesn't count. Although we might have to revise that because it's now like it's 8 years on from that, so we may have to revise that rule. But for now, that's been my kind of thing. I've got to watch like reasonably recent films, otherwise I feel like I can't do it because it's cheating. So I'm now actually holding myself back and not allowing myself to organically watch films, and that's been the case in my life now for 8 years that I've had to think every time I watch a film, like, am I allowed to watch this? Which has led to more of that thing where I go back and just watch the things I already like over and over again, or just watch telly, or just watch like episodes of Ninja Warrior UK or something like that. Like,
nice,
which I'm not saying isn't telly, but like it's kind of below drama television. Like, there's layers to it. There's like film, television, Ninja Warrior UK, but I love it. Like, people falling in the water is my favorite genre of telly. Like that's the best thing. Like, people run along a thing, they get knocked off, they fall in the water. That, to me, is gold. That's better than fucking Scarface or whatever people watch. I cried at Ninja Warrior UK last week. I was fully in tears, and some films haven't done that to me. Most films don't do that to me, but Ninja Warrior UK, I was in floods of tears. It was beautiful, important moment. I'm not going to go into detail. You have to watch the current series of Ninja Warrior UK Road to Glory. Road to Glory, something like that.
I'm not doing it tonight.
Something like that. I'm so emotionally invested, I can't remember the name.
It's got a new subtitle. It's not just Ninja Warrior UK. It's something like Road to Glory, Path to Glory, Race for Glory, I think is what it is. Yeah. I hope you don't mind tangents on this podcast, guys.
Oh, it's the best.
I've got them. Yeah.
But just going back to The Princess Bride really quickly, like, I only watched that very recently because it's my girlfriend's one of her favourite films. Well, she's got part of it tattooed on her.
Right.
So,
she's got Andre the Giant on her arm.
Yeah. Yeah. On her back.
What's the tattoo that she's got?
As Do You Wish.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's nice, isn't it? Lovely.
But so I was like, what the hell is that? And she's like, oh, it's from this film. I not seen it. No, we're not seeing that. But yeah, with Andre the Giant and whatnot, but I actually really enjoyed it. I mean, the part where he's floppy as hell near the end is one of the greatest,
it's very funny
scenes I've ever seen. It's like that it must have been so hard to do and to perfect as well.
Yeah,
Because then obviously you must have seen Hot Shots. No, because he's in Hot Shots as well.
Hot Shots. I don't know what Hot Shots is. I've not heard
Charlie
of
Sheen. It's a spoof movie. It's a piss take of Top Gun with Charlie Sheen in it.
Okay, right. I mean, that sounds good. I have seen Top Gun.
It's great.
I've seen Top Gun.
It's a piss take. It's spoof when spoof used to be really good.
Yeah.
Because Hot Shots 2 is Rambo and Hot Shots 1 is Top Gun, and they are fucking excellent. I can't stress to you enough. They're on Disney Plus, but they are from the 90s, so I don't know if that's allowed in any way.
There's some bits that, I'd go into it with a kind of an open mind or closed. I don't know what the best approach is, but to kind of, I go into it with an awareness of the cultural time it was released. Thank you. I figured out how to phrase that.
I was about to say that I'd love to see like a spoofy swirl of like different spoof movies, and I'm thinking, that might go over your head if you've not seen the films that they're spoof parodying. It wouldn't make any sense.
Well, so like The Simpsons, I loved The Simpsons as a kid, but like now going back and watching some episodes, having done Cinema Swirl, there's like jokes that as a kid I was just going like, haha, that's weird. And now I'm like, that was fully a reference to that film and that moment in that film. And I just thought they were just saying weird things or like a funny line. There's loads of things that I've just thought were just bits of The Simpsons that didn't quite make full sense to me, that when I go back now and catch up, I'm like, oh yeah, of course that's a reference to whatever. But So I guess with spoofs, I could probably be kind of pulled along by it and kind of, get some of the references, miss other ones, and just have a good time. I can't remember what it was recently, that it might have been on Cinema Swirl, where we watch like bad stuff on Patreon. But there are certain films where you just let the kind of the vibes and the colours wash over you, and you just get taken on that kind of journey. When you just sort of stop concentrating and you just kind of experience it in a more visceral, sensory way. Maybe I could do that with some spoofs. I don't know what I'm saying, but I'd love to do a spoofy swirl.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be great. Yeah. That would be amazing. But you obviously mentioned Cinema Swirl, obviously, which is on your Patreon,
yes,
which people can lovingly sign up to. But we'll get to all that in a bit. I mentioned Dumb and Dumber 2 at the beginning of this interview because obviously your and Kevin's hatred for this movie. So I've asked this a few times to a few people. Like I feel that movie companies are bleeding franchises for the sake of just for the sake of making a few bucks, as they call it over there.
Yeah.
So I never even breached Dumb and Dumber 2. I love the first one too much, and to make one like 20 odd years later, it's like, no, I'm good. What's a movie idea we could have? Let's see. Why don't we bring back Jurassic Park but call it Jurassic World instead? Like, why? Like they already, and then it was kind of similar to Jurassic Park anyway, so it made no fucking sense.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to get at, basically, Sam, is do you think that companies are bleeding franchises way too much for the sake of making movies to make money?
Yes. Well, I do. And I think the kind of, the reboots and I guess sequel and franchise mania is... I think I've read some things about why this is happening, and being to do with like financial risk, and you can't, if you release a new IP, it's riskier, so you have to try and find things that people already have a connection with, that have an inbuilt audience already. And so the easiest thing to do is to just remake something that people have already seen or do something associated with it. And I get that from a kind of boring business perspective, but it's pretty sad. It's as a reflection of like where Hollywood is. It's a shame. And Dumb and Dumber 2. So you've not seen Dumb and Dumber 2? You've not touched it.
I'm not even gonna bother, especially after your reactions earlier. No,
because you've got such fond memories of Dumb and Dumber, right? And you don't want.
And Jim Carrey's a massive hero of mine. I just can't.
Yes.
I can't do it.
And I'd probably say don't go on his Wikipedia page either. If he's like, don't scroll too far down on Jim Carrey wiki. Look, I love Jim Carrey as a kid. Like Liar Liar, that was one of those ones I watched over and over again. The fucking outtakes at the end, the bit with the kind of origami that's crunching the paper, like, it's a goose. It's fucking. I love that so much. Like he's such a ball of energy as a performer. He's just brilliant. Dumb and Dumber 2, I feel like you should watch it. Only because it's fascinating how far they were able to sort of take it down. Like it's so... No, don't watch it actually, because it will spoil it for you. It's just really sad and it's really bad, and it's just grim, and they look old as well. I mean, they are old, but it looks old and the jokes feel old. And it's just great. It's so grim. And also, like, it was funded by stolen Malaysian money or something. I still can't get to the bottom of what. Again, actually, Wikipedia Dumb and Dumber 2, you'll find some interesting stuff about how that film was funded. I think the rights or the ownership has reverted back to someone or somewhere. It was funded using stolen Malaysian money, I think. Malaysian government money. Yeah, so weird. So fucking strange. There's so much weird stuff going on with that film. They use a Franz Ferdinand song that isn't Take Me Out like 3 times, which is so strange. It's really bizarre to watch. But yeah, in answer to your question, I think it is sad, and I think Dumb and Dumber 2 is like the best example of how fucking shit everything has got in terms of like regurgitating things. I think there are probably some I've gone back and forth on this. Like sometimes if people see like a remake coming out and they're like, oh, for fuck's sake, why are they remaking this? The original was so good. I also kind of think it doesn't affect the original. I have thought that in the past. I'm like, it's not going to take away from the original. These sequels aren't going to necessarily damage the original. But then watching Dumb and Dumber 2, having watched Dumb and Dumber, I'm like, oh no, this does actually make Dumb and Dumber worse. Like I feel like this has actually hurt Dumb and Dumber is a worse film now because Dumb and Dumber 2 exists. So I go back and forth in my kind of opinion on this. I don't know, but like, yeah, Hollywood's in a weird fucking place, and it's all to do with like the finances of it and people not being willing to like take risks or try something with a filmmaker who wants to. There'll be people who want to write like new, interesting fucking stories and characters and places and things, but they're not getting those opportunities. They're getting opportunities to like direct the new Star Trek or like write for a Star Wars series. And look, people like those things. Those were bad examples, but you know, things are getting rehashed too much. I agree with you there. And Dumb and Dumber 2 is absolutely dog shit.
Okay. I kind of took it on a bit of a serious turn, so I do apologise. Obviously, it's probably going to be out you when I'm here going like, the fiscal year of 19... But when you're talking about how reboots or sequels ruin the first movie, The Matrix is now a classic example of that with the brand new one.
Yeah.
Completely destroying the original film, which is phenomenal.
But I think the original film still is phenomenal, right? You can watch The Matrix now and enjoy The Matrix.
Well, yes.
Regardless of what you think about further Matrixes. I've not seen the latest one. And I haven't seen I think I might have seen one of the sequels. I've seen bits of the sequel. I've watched The Matrix and I love The Matrix. I do get it. And I think, you know, you can have a very personal connection with a film and when people, or a franchise or characters, and when it seems like people aren't treating that with respect, it can hurt. And I understand that. But also I think The Matrix is always going to be The Matrix, you know. You can't make them like Dumb and Dumber. I feel like is more porous and can absorb poison, but The Matrix has got a real kind of digital sheen to it, and no matter how much shit you throw at it, it's still going to slide off, and you'll have that perfect. The Matrix is so fucking good.
Like, it is. When you've actually watched the sequels, we'll have this conversation again. Okay?
Yeah, I could argue this point. I'd be like, yeah, no, it's fine. The Matrix is still The Matrix. I haven't watched any of the other stuff. But the original it's fucking great. It is. It'll always be a classic. It will always be. Again, should have been standalone. It should have been standalone and left alone. Yeah. And then again, it's like, we can make lots of money out of this. But it did so well, and so therefore, you know, the cash cow starts to churn into motion.
I get it.
That's not a good metaphor either. I don't think cash cows churn into motion like they're like robots. But yeah, like that's the thing. If something does well, you have to keep doing it until it runs dry. I think The Matrix has probably run dry now, but so you might be able to breathe a kind of sigh of relief. But yeah, maybe we should have this conversation again once I've watched Matrix Revelations, Reloaded, Undone, what's the newest one called?
Resurrections.
Resurrections. Okay. So is there Revelations, or have I made that up?
Yeah, Revelations though. That's the third one. Reloaded is the second one.
Okay. Yeah.
So you actually nailed it. Completely nailed it. But... Maybe we should go back to things about you, Sam, rather than going into
I'm happy to talk about The Matrix.
Fair. Okay.
Yeah. But seeing as I am the one, let's talk about Matrix.
Yes, Keanu. So I love the fact that the show has sort of grown into more than just the films now. You know, you've got the mailbag, continuous jokes about Tiffin and the English. Yeah. But the one thing we need to talk to you about, Sam, is we've spoken to people with drug and alcohol addictions and everything like this, but we've never spoken to anyone with a soft drink addiction.
Right.
You and Pepsi. Oh, there it is right there.
I was saving this until it was there.
I love how you knew it was coming up. Because it's something we've got to talk about. How bad was this Pepsi addiction?
Well, so here's the thing. I didn't realise how bad it was until I needed to stop. So I love Pepsi Max, and for the occasion, I'm drinking the real shit. You know, the kind of fully caffeinated Pepsi Max, which I try to avoid these days. There is now Pepsi Max caffeine free. There was an episode of the podcast where I revealed that and that I was drinking that, and that was like a big turning point. I was back on the Max but without the caffeine. So I think the situation was, I was drinking a lot of Pepsi Max throughout my teens and 20s. And I didn't really put two and two together that I wasn't sleeping very well for most of that time, right? I couldn't really get to sleep at night. And actually, in a way, and I've never thought about this before until this very moment, in a way, that kind of helped me get into the zone of podcasting, because the thing that would put me to sleep would be listening to old episodes of podcasts that I loved on my iPod. So like, the Ricky Gervais stuff, the Adam and Joe, it was Russell Howard's Six Music thing, and with John Richardson back in the day. Loads of podcasts that I loved. I would just listen to those in order to fall asleep. That would be my strategy. I'd wake up in a tangle of iPod headphones every morning. But the reason why I wasn't sleeping mostly was because I was getting through so much caffeine via Pepsi Max. Now you might think compared to coffee, the amount of caffeine in Pepsi Max is kind of negligible, but I was guzzling that like it was water. And I would have Pepsi Max by the bed for the morning. If you want an indication of how tricky things got, at uni, I would go to bed with a full glass of Pepsi Max by the bed, so that in the morning I could have a little swig of Pepsi Max to get me out of bed. I didn't think about what was going on at the time. That seemed fine. And then it would through talking to Kevin about it and him kind of noticing how much I was drinking, that it became this kind of, ongoing goof. And so I didn't really see a problem with it. I just loved Pepsi Max. And it is the best cola as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if you guys have any cola views, any favorites.
It is Pepsi. I do prefer Pepsi over Coke. And I really like the new Pepsi Max Cherry and the Raspberry one. Okay, I'm a fan of those.
You're a flavour guy. Sure,
I'm a flavour guy. I'm definitely a flavour guy.
Coke away from me. I'm a Coke man. I have been, always will be. It actually, the funniest thing was there was a map, because I work in Cardiff City Centre, and there was a massive fuck off Pepsi truck that had pulled up. We're getting them every now and again, and pull up right by where I work. And one of the girls working there had a booth, big Pepsi booth, Pepsi t-shirt, everything's Pepsi everywhere. In the booth, just a can of Coke.
Interesting. That's fascinating. That must feel that must feel really rebellious when she's doing it. To have a can of Coke in there, in the Pepsi booth, in the sacred zone.
Yeah,
of the
it was
Pepsi
there.
Booth.
The beautiful red and white just sat there. I was like,
wow.
I see how it is.
It's like a Montagues and Capulets. Wow.
I never thought I'd hear Pepsi and Coke in Romeo and Juliet together.
But I shall keep your secret, madame.
I wish those Pepsi trucks turned up near me anyway. God, I love Pepsi Max. It's my favourite drink. Also, I didn't like fizzy drinks as a child. I didn't like fizzy drinks. I didn't like pizza.
What?
And I love both of those things with all my heart now. But I would go to Pizza Hut with my family and have pasta and salad, like a fucking weirdo. For some reason, I just, as a kid, didn't think I liked pizza, and then I started eating pizza and be like, oh yeah, of course I like this. It's pizza. What am I talking about? But anyway, I didn't like fizzy drinks as a kid, and so I think there was a sense of making up for lost time with the amount of Pepsi Max that I was consuming. I mean, I don't want to think about financially how much I've spent on Pepsi Max compared to if I was just drinking water. But I got through a lot. But the thing was, I sort of started to realize that it might be the thing that was impacting my health and well-being a little bit, and my sleep, and maybe giving me I think caffeine can affect anxiety and stuff like that if you're having too much of it. And And also, my bowels were a fucking nightmare. I don't know if that's to do with Pepsi.
Oh, shit was black and it fizzed. It's well weird. Yeah. What is this?
But
get it out.
Imagine that reverberating around the bowl. But so I kind of got a sense that maybe this was the thing that was doing it and that was having an impact on me. So I thought, okay, all right, I'll just quit cold turkey. And I also quit Pepsi Max. And so
Fuck's sake.
I couldn't. I have to. Sometimes I just have to do it. So I stopped drinking Pepsi, and it was an absolute nightmare. I don't want to compare it to like the scenes in Train Spotting. No,
I mentioned a toilet bowl, so
it's not even remotely comparable. But I felt sick, like I felt ill, and I think it's just caffeine withdrawal. But it was horrible, and for like a couple of weeks, I just had the worst headaches, and I felt ill and sick, and like struggled to get out of bed. And then beyond that, I was okay. And when I found myself relapsing a little bit and drinking some more Pepsi Max for a bit and then stopping, I get like a kind of mini version of that. So I'm like, okay, it's definitely like I had a problem with caffeine for a bit. So now, I mean, when the caffeine-free Pepsi Max came in, that was a beautiful day. Like, and it doesn't affect me in the same way. I'm drinking the real stuff for this, and I'm at the point now where I'm able to partake in a little bit of Pepsi Max, should I please, and I can control it, and it's okay.
I'm gonna feel really bad if you end up having a relapse because of us. I'm not gonna lie.
But yeah, that became like a massive thing on the podcast and spun off into its own like feature and segment.
I love it though,
and I love being able to bring it back. Like I recently drank, Soda Streams.
Oh, this was I don't know how you did this.
Like their own syrup that you put in with the fizzy water. I bought some of that. I don't have a Soda Stream, so I just for a segment on the show. I mixed it with some like sparkling water to see how it was. I also mixed it with still water, which was weird. And then I just kind of had a shot of the Pepsi Max syrup. And it was like, it was very intense. And I think you can kind of hear it on the episode. I suddenly become a bit giddy for like five minutes. Because like the amount of caffeine I just kind of that pure hit of Pepsi Max, it was a bit much. And I've still got that. It looks like one of those matey shampoo bottles, the Soda Stream Pepsi Max. I've still got that, and I'm going down some real rabbit holes here. At Aldi, and this is not a sponsored segment for Aldi, but at Aldi, they've released their knockoff Baileys for the season, which includes a white chocolate Baileys knockoff. And I did the other day, I was having some of that. It's incredible. Like, it's called Ballycastle at Aldi. And there's low prices and quality products at Aldi. I bought some of that and I tried some of it. And it was delicious. It was like kind of like alcoholic Milky Bar. It was fucking incredible.
That's unreal.
But then I saw the Pepsi Max syrup. It's like on top of the fridge, and part of my sick Pepsi Max brain was thinking, what if I put this in the white chocolate Baileys from Aldi? And I didn't do it, but I can't commit to not ever doing it. Especially at Christmas.
I'm intrigued. Yeah,
I don't want to have too much of the Baileys.
We know what's happening on this year's Christmas swirl now.
Imagine it with eggnog. But yeah, that opens up, and I don't even really know what eggnog is, and I don't want to know.
Does anyone?
I don't think they do. I think you just kind of accept it's called eggnog, and you kind of move on with your life.
Don't forget us fucked.
But yeah, like I was really badly addicted to Pepsi Max, and it was at the point where it's like a facet of my personality, and I think it kind of still is. and it's still like a fun thing on the podcast. But yeah, I'm okay now. I can control it, and I feel safe. So
do Pepsi know? Are they aware?
So we did. I mean, they don't know what I've just told you. I was addicted, and it was affecting my sleep. And I felt sick when I stopped. Please help me. Yours sincerely, Sam. But in the early days of Cinema Swirl, when we were doing like Pepsi Swirl as a little fun segment, we did DM Pepsi and try and see if they wanted to be involved in any way or talk to us. It was a real gentle no from the good folks at Pepsi Cola. But we did get followed by Maplin Electronics back in the day when they existed, and Love Honey still follow us, I think, to this day. So we had some interaction with some brands, but sadly Pepsi don't want to talk to me, despite me banging on their windows at night.
That's right, because me and Jamie interviewed the guy who does the adverts for them. He's actually a good friend of our show.
Oh, okay.
Mr.
Right,
P.R.
now
Brown.
Okay, all right, interesting. So I've now got some, degree of insider connections here that I can lean upon.
I'm wondering, Jamie, if we send a little message to Paul and see what he can do.
Right, so
he knows someone in the marketing department, so he's in the head office somewhere.
Here's what I would say, and I don't want to tank this before it's even started, but what was this gentleman's name? Sorry.
His name is goes by PR Brown.
Brown.
He makes music videos and he makes adverts out in the States. He's good mates with, like, I probably shouldn't say this now, but he's good mates like Manson and that sort of like the Slipknot boys, Rammstein, etc. Anyway, he also makes adverts because he's so good at music videos. So he does like the adverts with like David Beckham and Kevin Hart and all that sort of stuff. Lionel Messi and that sort of thing for Pepsi as well. So he actually films and shoots and edits their adverts for them.
And you're in contact with him. So what I would say, just to ruin this before it started, there is a little YouTube clip of me drinking the Soda Stream Pepsi neat. If you could just send that to him with no context from me, and just leave it at that and see if anything comes of it, that would be fantastic. No, but that is interesting that you've got some. I mean, there's a pathway of me finding my way to getting in touch with Pepsi Cola. So at one point in my Pepsi journey, I did go through a phase of, like, when I was on, like, looking for jobs, I would occasionally just type in Pepsi, and it's like. Like, where do you want to work? Pepsi. And I would just try and see if they had any jobs going. I don't know what I thought I would do at Pepsi, but I kind of wanted to. I assume because I thought, I'd get free Pepsi.
Worth a bash.
Yeah, it's worth a bash, exactly. So there you go. That's that's the chronicles of me drinking a lot of Pepsi, kind of curtailing it a bit recently. It's still a struggle, but I love it.
I love it. So, getting back to the actual show itself, are there any movies that really surprised you for whatever reason, whether that be good or bad?
That's a really good question I don't have a good answer for. Like, so I was surprised by how much I hated National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I didn't like it at all, and people love that. And really like it. I think it's brilliant, and it's a very important Christmas movie for a lot of people, and it's a very funny movie for a lot of people. And I watched it, and I don't know if I was in some sort of bad mood when I watched it, or if there was something going on, but I did not like that film at all. So I think for me in a way that was a surprise, and I think that's also the most kind of like vocal reaction I've had to, like, my opinion on something being controversial was National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I wish I had a good answer for this in terms of, like, surprising films. I don't know if I do. I'm usually, kind of. You might want to edit this bit while I'm just thinking for ages out, but. I mean, like, usually my reaction to stuff is pretty. It makes sense. Like, a lot of my reaction is just like, oh yeah, I get what everyone's talking about with this. I get it. There's not been that many occasions where I've been like, whoa, wait a minute, this is that. I mean, there's been times where I thought films were different things than what they were. Like I got kind of like Princess Bride and Princess Diaries briefly mixed up. There's things like that. Total Recall, I think I got mixed up with all sorts of different things. Like maybe Logan's Run, I thought was Total Recall or something. But nothing where I've been like completely bamboozled by a film and it's completely turned my expectations on my head. I don't think. But then also, I have not listened back to any of the episodes, and I do sometimes forget my reactions to films. So I'm saying this to you now, and there may be recorded evidence of me saying on a podcast, I was really surprised by that film. So actually my answer is, take a listen to Cinema Swirl and find out whether because I'm so sorry. I can't recall, Your Honour, whether I have been surprised. And I know I should be an expert on this podcast that I do, but I can't remember any like big. Wait a minute, what's going on here? No, but yeah, National Lampoons I thought I would like because Kevin likes it and people I like it, and I don't like it at all.
I remember watching it, thinking it was all right. It's not as great as it all makes out. It is. It's all right.
Yeah, but I guess it's probably one that people have like, especially when people associate something with Christmas and with their family Christmas, or with their relationship with like something special and something personal. For someone like me, a sort of fool who hasn't seen films, to go, I didn't like that, really stung for people. I think, and it really hurt. But yeah, I'm sorry I don't have a better answer other than
fine.
There's probably evidence on my podcast of me saying the opposite of what I've just said.
Well, no, you say that. You're telling people to go listen to the podcast. It bleeds beautifully into my next question of saying, you've done 96 episodes of the show now as of this recording. Yes. Are there any standout episodes that you're like extra proud of? If someone says to you, what's your podcast about? You go, listen to this one.
Right. Okay. What I'm going to do is this is so bad. I'm going to go through the list of Cinema Swirl episodes, and I'm going to see because what would be like the key one? I'd say. I mean, this is real dead air, isn't it? This is unfortunate what I'm doing here.
It's all good. We had a guest look for a podcast for about 10, 15 minutes, I think, a few weeks ago. So you're all good, man. Don't worry.
We'll be prepared. Because... Oh, okay. So, right. Just so I'm sure, can you ask me the question again? I may have forgotten exactly the wording of the question.
I was basically saying you've done 96 episodes of the show as of this recording. Yes. Are there any like standout episodes? Not necessarily the film, the episode itself that you're extra proud of. Someone says, "What's Cinema Swirl?" You go, "Listen to this one. This is the one."
I would say the episodes on the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I feel like are some significant ones. Because, again, it's kind of like when I have a particularly strong reaction one way or another, I think it makes for a really fun time. And especially, like, Lord of the Rings is something that Kevin loves a lot. And he was affected in that similar kind of Dumb and Dumber 2 way by The Hobbit, I think, that, like, kind of took away from his enjoyment of Lord of the Rings. I already didn't like the idea of Lord of the Rings going into it. And I watched it and I had a challenging time, and I think when we did the first one, people really liked the fact that I was having a bad time watching the Lord of the Rings. And so if you listen to that first one and then you listen to the middle one and then the third one, we did I think this was a Patreon thing or something, we did like we got to a point where we did the extended cut, so I already didn't like the first and the second ones. But it was kind of an adventure that me and Kevin went on together as a team to go through these films, and so we got together because we at that point we were doing episodes remotely, but we got together to do Lord of the Rings together like we did in the old days for the last one, and and we watched the extended fucking cut. So we were sitting on the sofa watching Lord of the Rings for like 11 hours, how long that fucking film is. I think those are like that sort of trilogy of episodes. I think is good to listen to. It's a real, and they kind of take place over a kind of extended period of time. There's big gaps between those episodes, but they tell their own story, I think. So I'd say maybe those ones. I'm sometimes a little bit embarrassed by the early episodes, which is a shame, but I think they're still fine. But I've got my kind of hey guys, today we're watching Star Wars, but now I'm kind of more loose and squeaky. But Lord of the Rings, I think I'd found my voice. We'd worked out what we were doing. We were really in a kind of good place, and I think we had a really fun time. And my kind of exasperation and Kevin's love of the franchise butting up against each other really caught people's imagination, and they wanted us to do the other ones. And we're now doing the Hobbit films on Cinema Swirl as well on Patreon. So we've kind of gone into now doing more of this franchise, and we've thought about maybe watching that Rings of Power thing as well, just because putting me through Lord of the Rings related media is a kind of sick pleasure for the people who listen to my podcast, who I love very much and appreciate their support. But why do you make me do this? I don't like it. So I'd say those ones. Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie though. I agree. Two Towers, that episode especially, it's just pure bliss. Just for the start of it, you're just like, Kevin, why are you doing this to me again? Why are you? And then the whole review is like, the trees are walking. I get it. Like,
it's just some fucking lads walking. That's the whole thing. They just walk around, and then there's a little man.
I love it so.
Little man with a ring.
That and Mean Girls. I loved the Mean Girls episode.
Oh yeah, Mean Girls was great, and I had a great time after we'd done that episode. I went to I think it's the Prince Charles Theatre in London, the cinema, Prince Charles Cinema. And they did like a kind of quote along Mean Girls thing that I was able to go to and kind of sit at the back of, but just enjoy like getting the kind of, for people who are so into that film and the I guess culture around it and the love around it, and just be in that room and see that after having watched it with Kevin. That was a really fun film. I really like Mean Girls. So I'd say the Lord of the Rings is like almost like a self-contained story within the podcast is a good place to check out.
As much as I hate to say it, because it is at your benefit of laughing at you, but I agree. They're just brilliant.
But I know it's good content, but I suffered for that art.
You suffer for your art, yes.
Brave of me to call it art, but I definitely suffered for that podcast episode.
So before we start wrapping up, you guys, as we've hinted to, have a Patreon where you offer a ton of extras. What sort of stuff can people find on there, and just sell us on the Patreon? Okay,
so on Cinema Swirl, we watch big, blockbuster, significant cultural movies. On Patreon, over at patreon.com/Cinema Swirl, we do a show called Cinema Swirl, and you can see how we got to that conclusion, where we watch just famously rubbish films. In fact, there's things like Super Mario Brothers, The Room, Street Fighter, just a bunch of what's that one? Oh no!
Suicide Squad.
We watched Suicide Squad, the original Suicide Squad. Battlefield Earth. We watched Plan 9 from Outer Space. Look, we've gone through all the kind of great canon of shit films, and we've watched them, and those have been some of my favorite like podcast things to do. It's its own other thing, but they're full episodes basically. I think there's 40 something of those now, and they're kind of like a nice companion piece to the show. So if you listen to Cinema Swirl and you like what we're doing, there's more of it. In a kind of alternate reality where we just watch absolute dog shit, including Dumb and Dumber 2. That's a real good example, because we did Dumb and Dumber on the main show, and then we did Dumb and Dumber 2. We did Jack and Jill, Adam Sandler's fucking Jack and Jill, which was another like heartless fucking evil, like horrible film. But they're so fun to talk about. I think, and that's like well trodden ground. I think there's a lot of people reviewing like bad movies, but if you enjoy the dynamic that me and Kevin have, and you think it'll be fun to hear us talk about bad movies, there's a lot of content on our Patreon. So if you want to check it out, head on over there to have a look. And there's also some little video bits and extra bonus bits and bobs. But the main thing is the Cinema Swirl, kind of a whole other podcast behind that sweet paywall.
Incredible. Mr. Stevens, do you have any more questions for our wonderful guest?
You were talking about the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Like, why don't do Sharknado?
Yeah, I mean, that's one we have considered for the old swirl. I don't know if it has like the it's that would be a good trilogy to do. I mean, are there more than 3 of Sharknado?
I think there's like 6 now.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
We get stuck in our little rules about what we're doing. So I think Sharknado was like cinematically released, wasn't it? It wasn't like
I don't think it was.
Oh, okay.
Straight to DVD.
We have locked ourselves in on being like, the films we watch on Swirl have to have been cinematically released. But I think we should probably loosen on that soon. But the reason why we haven't yet is because once you open that straight to DVD, straight to VHS floodgate, you will drown in like crap movies. Like there are no bounds to the amount of bad films that you can watch once you get into that world of things that have been straight to DVD. And now with like straight to streaming as well, I think there's a whole other kind of dimension.
Hallmark movies. Right?
Yes, exactly.
So many.
So we may well get there. But we have our little weird rules that we do. We bend those rules all the time. I think for a while, so I give these films like a rating, and as a joke on the first episode, because it was Star Wars, we said it was a star wipe rating, and like I think I said I wasn't going to do half star wipe ratings, and then I just started doing them loads, and like some people were like, but Sam, you said you, and like it's my opinion holds no weight.
My show. I'll do what I want with it.
It doesn't mean anything. Like I think some people like really like this is important. You need to keep to the sacred nature of the star wipe rating. Anyway, I can't remember what I was saying, but thank you. Thank you.
And the Velocipasta as well. I think it's another one. The
Velocipasta. Oh, church, not as in like pasta as in like pasta bake, as in like pasta as in
religious. Yeah.
Yes,
pastor. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I thought it was like.
I want to see a spaghetti like what's head to a dinosaur.
Yeah, you get like shaped pasta for kids. I thought it was just like, there's a whole film about like an animated film about.
It's not animated.
Dinosaur pasta.
Sounds amazing. Why hasn't that been made?
Yeah, like the Toy Story, but for like spaghetti hoops or something. Velocipasta. But yeah, I do want to check out those things. I do want to watch those real sweet gut. But like, I think those films like lean into their awfulness, don't they? They kind of know.
Yeah,
they know what they're doing. Yeah. It's a bit kind of self-aware. The real fun is in when people have put a lot of time and effort and energy into something that ends up still being really bad, and like But when it's like winking at the camera, being like, guys, come on. I mean, there's a lot of joy in that. But for some reason, I take a greater thrill in watching something bad that people really cared about and wanted to be good. Like The Room. Have you watched The Room?
Nope.
A long time.
Okay.
Ago.
Check out The Room. Like it's fascinating, and the process behind it. There's that whole Disaster Artist.
I've watched the Disaster Artist, but I don't think I've watched The Room.
Yeah, check out The Room. It's so interesting that was even made, and that the guy made it, and he's a real character.
Yeah.
But yeah. There's so much scope for that show, and it's been one of my favorite things to do is just to talk about rubbish movies, even though there are some rubbish movies on regular Swirl.
When you first began podcasting, when you wanted to be that train driver back when you were a child, did you ever think that life would work out the way? Did you ever think this is where you'd be? Like Cinema Swirl was, very popular show. You're doing really well with it, smashing out the park for the last 8 years. A lot of hard work's gone into it stuff, but did you ever think that this is where you would be today?
No. But like, so something that just started as me bugging my friend to do a podcast with me because I wanted to do a podcast. in the early days, we were just doing it for fun and kind of released it on a kind of sporadic schedule. It was a bit all over the place. And we had big like breaks. Again, not to come back to like big break, but like we had that's the most snooker gesture. I don't know how to play snooker. We had like gaps and stuff. But we're now at a point where we're doing it pretty regularly and we're really committed to it and we love doing it. And it's kind of this well-oiled machine, but it's still surprising and fun. I didn't know we'd get to that place. I'm so glad we did. And I think, I don't want to get weird and preachy, but I'm like, if anyone's thinking of starting a podcast, do it, because even if no one listens to it, you're going to have a lot of fun. Like there's so much benefit to doing it and to putting yourself out there, and it could become something significant. It could be something that you do for fun and for hobby, but you will learn something and you will grow and you will change in a good, positive way. So from where I was to where I am now, it's had like a massive influence on like my whole life. And just from like dicking around talking about films, that's been great. And I've loved it. And I love still doing it. We're nearly 100 episodes, which again, over 8 years is not that many, but like it still feels like a big achievement for us that we're nearly at that point.
It really is. And you're absolutely right. The power of podcasting is just incredible. It's a beautiful medium. I love it so much. I couldn't agree with you anymore on that. Before we let you go, there's any plugs, social medias you want people to go and check out?
Just the obvious ones, I think. So at Cinema Swirl on Twitter and / Cinema Swirl on Facebook, and just Google Cinema Swirl for the podcast. And if you want to follow me, I don't tweet that much interesting stuff, but if you fancy following me, it's at Sam Chaplin, just at my name. Very pleased of getting my name on, on Twitter, like, getting the actual handle. It pays to get in early. I've got in early on other social media platforms that have not taken off, and it's not benefited me. But on Twitter, I'm glad to have Sam Chaplin. So yeah, just those really. If you fancy giving me a follow, I tend to like if I'm doing something new or interesting, I will tweet about it from there. And if you fancy listening to the show and you've not heard it, Cinema Swirl, check it out, I would say.
And make sure you follow Cinema Swirl on Facebook so you can get involved in the polls for the new episode.
Yes.
I've just seen the new one drop today for Godzilla, and I can't wait to go vote on that one.
I think it's going to be Godzilla, I reckon.
Yes, but I reckon it might be.
Make sure you check out Ballycastle Irish Cream at Aldi. It comes in the following flavours: white chocolates, chocolate and mandarin, hazelnut and chocolate, and just your regular old Irish cream. And it is delicious. It's the perfect thing for the Christmas season. And you can even drink it in September like me. So if you want to pour some Pepsi Max soda stream into it, knock yourself out and have yourself a merry little Christmas in September with Ballycastle, available exclusively at Aldi. Limited edition, get in quick. I drove over there the day I found out it was coming out, and I got duplicates of some of my favourite flavours. The chocolate orange is delicious. So make sure you check out Ballycastle Irish Cream with Tom and Jamie. There you go. I think that'll do you.
That was beautiful.
Nailed it.
And we've got to say,
Sam,
the best Aldi name will always be their version of Dr. Pepper, being Professor Peppy. Thank you very much.
Professor Peppy.
Professor Peppy.
Oh, Professor Peppy. I need to get some Professor Peppy.
This has been amazing, my friend. Thank you so much for hanging.
Thank you,
we
guys.
Really appreciate it, and for pushing back half an hour. I massively appreciate that as well.
Oh, well, thank you for putting up with my fucking internet nightmare. Oh god, that was horrible. Having to run downstairs and switch everything off, reset everything. But I think it's working. Yeah,
we made it.
I think it's all come out okay. But thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Yeah.
Look after yourself, sir. We'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. All right. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Sam.
Have a good
Take
night.
care, mate.
And you.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
What a fantastic interview. I love this. It's amazing getting to learn more about someone who you listen to really and have for like 8 years. It's just phenomenal.
It's great. People go check out the Cinema Swirl podcast right now. Go subscribe. Go listen to their juicy little numbers. The Princess Bride is the most current episode right now. Yeah, the missus was loving it, so she made me want to watch it again. So Sam, thank you so much for taking the time with my friend. Really appreciate it.
Everyone, please go check out Cinema Swirl on the socials. As they said in this, That is how they do all the episode voting. So go get involved. At the minute, Godzilla, or Godzilla. I suggest you vote for Godzilla.
Yeah, me too. And we hope that you guys enjoy listening to it as much as we did recording it.
All right, is this thing on?
Well, howdy doody, everybody. This is Braden Berry from Say We Can Fly It, founder of Stay Cozy Clothing, your one-stop shop for the coziest, most fashionable hoodies, t-shirts, and more.
Gosh, Mickey. That's right, folks. And we're proud to say that we are now sponsoring
the Chronicles of Podcast. Ouch.
Hosted by Tom and Jamie.
Like, you can get 10% off, man. That's right, Shaggy. Just use the special code, The Chronicles, at checkout.
Oh, boy.